We have a lot to discuss with this chapter on One Piece. We really do. I'm gonna say some controversial things in this video, but that's just what I do. What Oda's doing right now is just, oh, you know what? Okay, time out. Before we get to that, first things first, if you notice, it's been some time since I've dropped some video content on this channel. Yes, this is true. Main reason being is because I've been going through a lot of different things when it comes to outside stuff. Health, and ironically enough, I have a sore throat while I'm, going through this. I am feeling overall better, which is absolutely great. I am. But there are still some hurdles I need to take care of here and there. Nothing crazy or let's say life-threatening, but things that need to be taken care of for the betterment of my health, which of course will improve production of the video content for this channel, obviously. If you don't know also, I do my live stream reactions to this content on my Cole Requiem channel. Link in the box below to that channel. Sore throat, so I'm struggling. But we got through this, and man, this chapter is just is shocking in so many ways. So there are two things that Oda did in this chapter that pay homage to a few people that I want to give, a shout out to. So the first thing is that he did draw 3 pirates that do harken back to his days as an apprentice for the author Rurouni Kenshin, noted to by Sandman on his Twitter page. And I thought it was pretty cool because Rurouni Kenshin, I think, is one of the best all-time shonens out there for damn sure. So damn good. It got a remake recently. They're gonna go through the entire manga, unlike the original anime did. But Rurouni Kenshin is so damn good, it came back like a decade later for a rework. So that's how you know it's quality content. And even like Rurouni Kenshin itself, there was a cannonball that has the Straw Hat logo on the cannonball done by Oda for One Piece. So it was really cool seeing Oda pay homage to that, first thing. The second thing is that My Hero Academia is over. A story that's been going on for 10 plus years. No matter how you think about it, it is undeniable that it is a successful story in terms of the numbers and the metrics. I personally do enjoy My Hero. I do the reactions of My Hero to the anime on my Patreon and then upload it to my Cole-san reaction channel, where I do reactions to movies, animes, soon coming TV shows like House of the Dragon Season 2 and Fallout and so on and so forth. But we see this really cool cover page for Smoker. And the reason why is because the author of My Hero Academia, Horikoshi, he drew in 2002, he drew a picture of Smoker that actually got onto a One Piece SBS. So Oda going back and looking at that image that Horikoshi made for Smoker, and then doing his own style of that in the cover, you just have to respect it. So those are the two things that Oda did that I thought are pretty damn neat in terms of paying homage to not only his past work with Rurouni Kenshin's author, but also to the finale of My Hero Academia. Now, the chapter itself. This might be the greatest Haki feat in the story of One Piece so far. Might. Now, first of all, the chapter in of itself is pretty well paced in a general sense, where we do get those reactions to what Vega Punk said in the last chapter, and you see the pirates definitely are rallying. And now we're really focusing on the One Piece treasure the most, which makes the most sense. I have a video coming out about that in greater detail, explaining how essentially the story is focusing on where it should be focused on, the pirates. Because it is the great pirate era. And even though you have other factions like the Marines, World Government, Revolutionary Army, other smaller factions like Bounty Hunters and so on, pirates shape the world first and foremost. Pirates are, for the most part, the most important factions that exist in the entire world. And to the point where they literally control a part of the world that not even the Marines and the World Government can actually interfere with that much, the New World. And now that it's a race for the One Piece to change the world, it is the pirates that are in the lead first and foremost. So to me, the last chapter's panel was probably the most important panel I've seen in years for One Piece. Like, honestly, I'm not even playing. But again, another video, another day, real soon. That is being worked on as we speak. I promise you that. I do. But Vega Punk's speech is finally very likely over because we do have War Krieg gore out the left side of Ameth, and then the Dendamushi actually explodes, which is a big thing for the progression of the arc itself. Obviously, Vega Punk's speech is over, and then it does cut off with the whole Joy Boy thing. So just how before in his speech, it cut off when he was going about the D-Clan, and it shut that down, because obviously in the future, that's to be explained. And then later on, we have Joy Boy stuff, shut it down, no, for the future. Okay, that's okay. That's not really a big deal. Because in the future, Oda will dive into that. Again, keep in mind, this is just the beginning of the final saga of One Piece. There is still a lot of One Piece manga material left. There's so much, it's absurd. But what is absolutely absurd is the level of haki that we see emanating from what essentially is a copy of the Witharia rope that we see during Nami's pre-time skip training on that island. Where Haradas, the old guy that was there teaching Nami about how to control the weather better, he had this thing called the wind knot. And he was able to like yank on that knot, and then he actually created these gusts of wind in various degrees. So one knot was like a light breeze, two knot was a much stronger breeze and much more tense winds, and then three knots like hurricane gale force winds, right? So in this chapter, we see a callback to this Skypiea technology in some sense, and then apparently Joy Boy was able to store his haki in this sailor's knot. He yanked on that, Meth did, and then we see unbelievable levels of haki across the entire area. Remember when Kizaru got thrown by Luffy during their fight? It's like that sort of distance, probably beyond. And then in the process too, the sky splits above them. It's a huge AOE, gigantic haki pulse in the area. It's extraordinarily impressive in terms of just the sheer size and scope of that. But there are two things that are like the most important by far. Number one, when it comes to this situation, this haki is able to actually depower the elders in their transformed state, which likely means, not confirmed per se, but likely means they are power users and not actual demons. The second thing is that apparently you can actually store haki into energy storing methodologies in the world of One Piece, which is new. This is new. As far as I know, this has not been the case unless you want to consider Enma. When this haki burst happens, and then the elders are forced back to the Holy Land outside of J. Garcia Saturn, who was still on Egghead Island, likely because he was the one that summoned them to Egghead Island. He came there by boat. The haki negated that ability outright because of the haki's strength, and I'd also argue the proximity to a meth. Haki that could split the sky by itself is tremendously powerful haki. They were so close to a meth, that it also forced, again, their powers to depower. That's what I'd argue. Proximity matters a lot here, because it'll explain something else in the future I'll get to real soon. But when the other elders return, and there's that funny bit, Marcus Mars sassed up, legs crossed, comfortable as hell, all right? Painting his nails, comfortable as hell. And then you have Emu just yell. This right here, this karate chop, is me signifying aura drop. Feeling the presence of Joy Boy's haki, I'm assuming the residuals on the elders, completely freaked out Emu. And this idea of the presence of one's haki, we also saw with Kaido and Oden's haki, where Kaido was sensing the haki of Oden within the Enma blade. Now, take of that what you would. I don't really care about that. I really, really don't. Because to me, what we see here is extremely important in the sense of being able to infuse objects or energy storing methods with haki. It is, of course, ambiguous, unfortunately, but haki is likely some sort of energy, just how you have wind, solar, nuclear, and so on. Haki's in that pool of energy types as well. And based on Nami's pre-time skip training with those wind knots, in order to create those winds, energy has to be stored somewhere in some kind. Here's the question. Could you take haki and store haki into an impact dial? We see Usopp kind of play around with on Skypiea, and we haven't seen like a long time. Last time I recall seeing it was in Water 7 with Usopp versus Luffy, where Usopp actually took the impact of Luffy's punch and then rebounded at Luffy. Could you then put haki into an impact dial and then impact the haki out of the dial? Keep in mind, the technology of the past during Joy Boy's heyday was far superior than the technology globally that they have now across the world. Vega Punk is close to it, but he's not at that level. He's close, but he's not at that stage. And since the technology of the One Piece Heian era was that much better, then it's very likely that Joy Boy has a greater understanding of haki than what is commonly known now. Because as far as I know, no one has started, let's say, storing haki and then using that stored haki for a later date. Remember Lao Ji in Dressrosa? Lao Ji had the ability to store his muscle mass of his youth and then use that muscle mass for the future. That's why during that fight against Don Chinjiao, he's a scrawny old man going, gee, and then all of a sudden gets all yoked out. He was able to store the energy and the nutrients of his youth somehow, and then could save it in his body until he was much older. There are signs of this happening in various ways. The problem though is that it's haki. This is the weirdest thing in the entire chapter, because it's crazy. Like, you can store that much conqueror's haki into a sailor's knot within a myth, and then it's so powerful. The AoE is just unbelievable. It's off the charts, to the point where it actually forces the elders to power down, and then the summoning just deactivates. Like, and it's haki stored in this rope for almost what, 800, 900 years? That's insane. But at the same time, it does kind of prove Kaido's words correct. In chapter 1047, what did Kaido say? Haki can transcend all things. Haki is a vague power system for sure. Because of this moment we're seeing in this chapter, it only gets vaguer. But the things you can do with haki are potentially limitless. But Oda has to dive into that. Even though, I mean, yes, I understand. We're in the final saga, and we still need more clarification of haki and what haki can do fundamentally. Which is like, bro, what? I understand. It's annoying as frick. It really is. But from a writing perspective, fundamentally, it's hard for me to say that this is poor writing in of itself, because haki has so many gray zones. That's the reason why I would say it's a bad power system. But because of the gray, Oda can just kind of do things, and it is what it is. Being able to sense someone's haki like it's some sort of key wavelength, and know if it's Oden or know if it's Joy Boy, I think it's like a relatively new thing. Being able to power down someone from a transformed state is a relatively new thing too, because we saw it with Shanks when Shanks shook Green Bull from deep range in chapter 1055. Green Bull was in his giant Groot form, and then Shanks' haki from 2 oceans away went past the saltwater border waters, climbed up the boundary, went through the freshwater ocean, then went inland, and then he powered down Green Bull. He forced him to go down. In the anime, it's almost like a haki straitjacket, where it forces Green Bull to literally power down. This is crazy. This is what I would say is like God King haki. Yeah, I'm calling this God King haki. God King. Joy Boy pulls up the God King haki and he shuts these boys down. And he does so from 809 years ago. It's a scary proposition to have all your powers just shut down, negated, because someone's conqueror's haki is that gnarly. To me, haki gets a massive boon in terms of what haki can really do, because it kind of confirms what we saw Shanks do. Shanks could depower Green Bull. Joy Boy's haki depowered the elders and undid the summoning circle. And the reason why I argue Marcus Mars is now in the Holy Land is because he got packed up so far away, he was out of the range of the Saturn summoning circle area. And because of that, he was forced back to his Call of Duty spawn. So right now in my mind, I'm kind of debating if this is what we see with Joy Boy, the best genuine haki feat in the story. I would say that right now, Shanks' moment and this moment are in the league of their own, but I don't know which one is exactly the top dog. The reason why is because I think that Green Bull, as a person, is stronger than the elders at this point in time. 1. 2, is that the Vice Admirals are knocked out. They do have a similar effect to what we see with Shanks in Film Red, but Film Red, a lot of material in that movie is not canon, obviously. Some things are, like Uta, Figurland Family, yeah, they're canon, for sure. We have Doll and we have the Crimson Chin. They're not knocked out from this haki. I would assume it's a proximity thing because it's like more of a big AoE effect, whereas Shanks was targeting a particular individual. And then one thing I don't know too, Joy Boy in like one moment fused all of his haki into the rope, but I don't know like the context around that. Was it actually in one moment? Was it over the course of a day, a week? How was Joy Boy when he did that? Was he gassed? Was he A-okay? Whereas with Shanks, when he did against Green Bull, he seemed to be relatively fine and comfortable. He wasn't sweating, he wasn't gassed or anything after he shook Green Bull from like 1,000+ miles away. So again, right now I'm still debating, though, because Joy Boy's Haki does have also that sky split, I'm leaning towards Joy Boy. But the difference between what Joy Boy's a meth Haki was and then Shanks's feat, again, these two are in a league of their own, separate than any other Haki feat in the verse by far and away. But ultimately speaking, the key is Haki when it comes to being able to potentially do the elders and do actual lasting permanent damage to actually bypass immortality factor. How do you bypass immortality factor? More Haki, low. It could be that simple, but because no one actually took the elders after the fact, we're not too sure. But they did de-transform from their ability, which is a huge thing, let's say, in terms of not only just for the story itself, for this arc, but at large. Also, lastly for this video, we get to see a Meth's body in the past, and he's talking to Joy Boy, very similar to Ace and Oars, Little Oars Jr., in the flashback that we see during Marineford. And the Meth also has the Alabasta X's on his forearm. I don't know if that means anything per se, like X marks the spot. Same thing on Chopper's hat too. That old school pirate thing, who knows? But what's most important here is that it appears, and it just appears to be this case here, we could be wrong, but based on the silhouette of Joy Boy, he looks like he's missing his right arm and his right leg. Like his right leg could be a peg leg, but his right arm is a Lego arm of some kind. Now, this could all just be bad artwork. Possible. It is possible. But that's the way it looks. It looks like it's a prosthetic arm and a prosthetic leg. And I'm guessing this means that this is Joy Boy after all the fighting when they took the L from the 20 Kingdoms a long time ago. A period of time which apparently a Meth failed, along with other allies of Joy Boy. They failed to make Joy Boy king. King of what? The world? Now, maybe I'm capping there, but if that's the truth, then that's along the same lines as someone like Rocks or Blackbeard. Or is it that the case that a Meth and company misinterpreted Joy Boy's desires and assumed he wanted to be king, but in reality it was something else entirely? He does wear the straw hat, which I'm assuming is the big straw that we see in the Holy Land. Of course, in the same vein as Luffy now, Shanks before him, and Goldie Roger before him. So the idea is that he would be a pirate kind of like of the same archetype as Shanks, Luffy, and Roger. But if he really wanted to be king, that's aims of like Rocks and Blackbeard. It's just interesting. It really, really is. Just how, like, for example, if he was battle damaged after his battle against these 20 kingdoms and he lost, then maybe it wasn't just his right arm and right leg. It could also be one of his eyes. Remember, Oda said in SBS that we would see a pirate with an eye patch at some point, a very important person in the story. And maybe that person was Joy Boy. And it could be the case here where, let's say, come end the story, Joy Boy's condition could, let's say, match a future Luffy's condition, where Luffy also somehow loses an arm, a leg, and maybe an eye as well. So that's, of course, more on the theory side of things, but it does get the mind jogging. So as a character, his intentions could have been potentially a lot more malicious than what you first think. Or let's say, for example, maybe being king refers to being king of the pirates, even though he was the first pirate, which I would think would be like something akin to the king of the pirates, being the first pirate. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe being king of the world was actually a good thing at that point in time in the world. Why? There's a lot. There's a lot I could theorize and infer. The video's already pretty long, so Austin, good luck. I'm just thinking there's a lot to discuss. So there's a break next week. I'm going to try and plug through more content. I absolutely will, because there are so many things that we got to get done. Let me know your thoughts on this chapter. I think this chapter is actually, I know it's controversial because it seems a bit ridiculous to have Haki being stored into a knot. It's like, wait, hold on, since when? But it could literally be since now. Maybe things like Oden's presence being within Emma could have been a sign of this in some degree, because again, we have the presence of Joy Boy being felt by Emu. But then more so than that, again, we don't know per se what the limits of Haki really are. Again, Haki is a very vague system. Oda thrives in the gray of Haki. He does. That's an undeniable fact. I think it's crazy and it's so strange. It's weird. But I can't say it's impossible or bad writing based on the power system that Oda has established for Haki. So that's like my one. We have to see how things play out in the future. It could actually be bad writing, but we need to see future context to see if that's actually the case. So until then, I'm gonna say this chapter is an 8 out of 10. I think it's a great chapter, One Piece. Again, character-wise, a meth, Joy Boy. I mean, come on, Joy Boy's body. The fact that you have Luffy also referring to a meth that, no, I'm not Joy Boy, I'm Monkey D. Luffy. The idea of like the Messiah trope is like, well, hold on, no. I'm not your dude. I'm just Monkey D. Luffy. The idea that a D-Clan member would be the one to like find the One Piece has always been there for sure. But Luffy being the specific one, that has yet to been prophesized in the story so far. But that being said, I would say again, 8 out of 10 chapter of One Piece. But let me know your thoughts on this chapter. Be sure to rate the video, give it a thumbs up if you enjoy my content. Of course, subscribe to the channel. Click on that bell to join the notification squad. Make sure to do that also on your YouTube phone app. Make sure to turn it on for all subscriptions. And I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side. Again, I do plan on doing more video content, even though I have been slow over the past few weeks. But I will be doing more content. So once again, I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye bye.